Have you ever realized while playing Rocket League how many questions float around your mind while you play? Why did the ball bounce like that? I wonder if I'm going to get to this ball in time to stop it. I wonder if my teammate has rotated behind me to cover my back. Why am I not ranking up despite playing this game every day for the last year? Why didn't Sunless Khan upload this entire week? I wonder if maybe he tried to write and record an entire diss track in 2 days. I forgot it would take another couple days to make, the video part of the music video, and then got deathly ill, preventing him from accomplishing anything and leading him to question the very existence of his channel. Just regular questions we all ask ourselves. But today we're tackling the biggest question of them all, and it has to do with mistakes. The old whiff, the old goof and gaff we're all familiar with. The minute you started playing Rocket League, it must have occurred to you. When you play this game, you're gonna make a lot of mistakes. So the question is, which mistakes should you actively work on stopping, and which should you just accept as a fact of the game? In other words, which mistakes are preventable, and which mistakes are inevitable? Today we find out. The first mistake is what we saw in that opening intro. It's just not getting to the ball quick enough. Now this is a really common scenario that's going to happen every game, especially if you play threes, because threes can pretty much be boiled down to a series of 50-50s just over and over and over again. And like the name suggests, a 50-50 is going to be won by one of the players 50% of the time. So considering how many 50-50s happen, odds are you're going to be on the losing end of a 50-50 multiple times every time you play. So is not being quick enough and getting out to the ball a critical mistake? So this is interesting to think about at all levels of the game. One of the biggest factors in ranking up is game speed, and one of the biggest indicators of how fast you are at the game is how fast you're able to get out to the ball and challenge, particularly on defense, but really it happens all over the field. As you become faster and faster at reading the game, you get quicker at getting the ball and challenging an opponent. But as you rank up, your opponents also get faster, which means no matter what your rank is, you're always going to be on the losing end of challenges. All this to say, this first mistake is definitely something that's just going to happen. Someone has to be in the losing end of a challenge, and it's going to be you sometimes. Improving your game speed comes with time, and like I've said many times on my channel, trying to get exposure to higher level gameplay, trying to play with higher level players. Playing with higher level players will help you become accustomed to a faster pace in the game, because really this is all about instinct and reaction time. And it's encouraging to know that that's something you can always improve in at any level. So the next one is the aerial whiff. Now I could talk about just whiffs in general, but that almost seems too basic. So I'm really focusing on whiffs when it comes to backboard reads or wall reads, really reading how the ball bounces off the wall when you're trying to go up for an aerial. Now this kind of falls into the first one where at any level there's going to be whiffs because it's not just about your ability to hit the ball. It's a common misconception that as you rank up, you'll just become better at hitting the ball. Okay, well that's not really a misconception because you do become better at hitting the ball. But the thing is, a lot of players don't understand that whiffs don't just go away as you rank up. Increased game speed and increased pressure from the other team will cause you to try to make plays faster. For instance, in say silver, I can watch the ball bounce off the wall and I can wait for it to come down to a place where I'm comfortable with hitting it. By the time I'm silver, I'm probably not going to whiff this ball because there's no pressure. I can wait for the ball to come down. But as you rank up, you know that your opponent's going to be right there reading the ball. So you need to be able to get up quickly and read how the ball bounces, predicting its path so you can get there before your opponent. This means even in the higher ranks there's going to be whiffs because you're always challenging yourself to get a better read than your opponent. That's why I always laugh when I see, what rank is this when people are whiffing? When that's really a mistake that's going to happen at any level because of the increased pressure and game speed. There wouldn't be whiffs in the higher ranks if everyone just played nice and slow and waited for the ball to come down like in the lower ranks. So this is another one that you have to accept as a fact of the game. But you can cut down on whiffs, of course, by becoming better at reading the ball. This, like we've covered many times, can be done in free play, bouncing the ball off the wall. It can be done in training packs, and it just comes with game experience as well. So we'll categorize this mistake as common and inevitable, but is something you can work on very specifically to cut down on. If you're interested in getting better at reading the ball off the wall, specifically the backboard, this is my absolute favorite training for that kind of thing, from the author Seabrify, and I'll have the code in the description. And the most important thing about this training pack in particular is rather than the ball already heading towards a particular spot on the backboard for you to read, it allows you to set up your own backboard reads, which is way more game-like, and it means each ball is going to be different depending on how you set yourself up. Far superior to just the ball going to the same spot every time. And it's also just a really fun one to try, so I highly recommend it. For number 3, let's move to defense. A part of the game that a lot of Rocket League players don't really focus on. I'm specifically talking about getting beat in one-on-one situations, like getting flicked. Now, getting beat when you're on defense is inevitable. Sometimes the player is just going to have a better move. Sometimes they're going to be quicker, sometimes they're going to get to the ball faster. And like the first 2 mistakes, sometimes it's inevitable that you're going to look bad and you're going to get scored on. The thing that is inexcusable is your positioning when you're approaching an attacking player ready to defend your goal. Something you can do at any level is learn how to get into the proper position to make it as hard as possible to get beat. If you're interested in the best way to defend a 1v1 situation, and I don't mean just in ones, 1v1 situations happen in any playlist. I talk about that in my shadow defense tutorial, so you can check that out if you're interested in what's regarded as the best way to defend that. So to summarize this point, getting beat is excusable, but approaching a defensive situation poorly is something all Rocket League players need to learn as soon as possible, because that mistake can be prevented. Number 4 is another defensive mistake. It's this panicky clearance into the sidewall. Again, you would think this only happens in the lower levels, but it happens quite a lot, similarly to the first mistake, with increased pressure as you rank up. It's where you feel like you need to clear the ball so desperately that you're not really concerned about where you're putting it, and you end up just slamming it into the wall, which ends up centering the ball to the other team, and a lot of times setting up goals for your opponent. This is a really tough one, and I'm going to have to categorize this as half preventable, half excusable. So in the heat of the moment, sometimes you really just need to make contact on the ball, because if you're not there on the ball, your opponent will be, and you're either going to lose a 50-50 in your half or just give up an open shot. So sometimes you really need to just get to the ball, and you can't really control exactly where it goes, which is why I say this is half excusable. But what's not excusable is when you have some time and space and you don't have pressure from an opponent, yet you still find a way to clear the ball into the sidewall. This is where it takes some real focus and awareness to learn to put it really anywhere except the middle and the sidewall. You're essentially putting it in the middle when you put it off to the side like that. It's important to remember it's not always best to put the most power on the ball when you're clearing. The absolute best clear you can have is of course down completely on the other end in the opponent's corner. But it's important to learn when that's even possible. In other words, if you're approaching from a weird angle and you're not going to be able to get that much power, it's important not to try to get power on the ball anyway. What I mean by this is sometimes it's better as a clear to simply delay the opponent's attack by softly touching the ball into your own corner, where either your team can collect it or you can get back into position to defend. And what that really boils down to is thinking about what the next touch is going to be. Not about the hit you're about to make, but what the consequences of that hit is going to be. So instead of always putting power on the ball and going for that optimal clear, that's just not going to happen every time, you can always be smarter about the placement of your defensive clears to delay your opponent's attack. And that's something you can always think about at any level. Number 5 is a real separator between high and low level players, and it's your ability to navigate the walls. And the mistake I'm referring to is just the inability to make a good play on the ball off the wall. This is both in defensive and offensive situations. Now in some ways, whiffs off the wall are inevitable, but I'm actually going to put this mistake in the preventable category, because how comfortable you are on the wall can easily be improved with just a little bit of training. And I'm specifically talking about training for this one, because unlike 50-50s, the situation where you're making a play on the ball off the wall is not quite as common in a game, especially in lower levels. Now in higher levels, it becomes more and more common. The point is, you need to replicate this in training in order to get better at it. It's one of the most useful skills that you can quickly improve in by just a couple sessions in a training pack, or just messing around in free play. One of the things that gives most Rocket League players trouble when it comes to the wall is power slides on the wall, because they're super tricky. They don't quite work the same way as when you're on the ground, so it's really hard to turn quickly. So mistakes in that area are a little more excusable, because that's actually quite difficult even for high level players. But just learning to become better on the wall, having more control, being able to jump out further to make plays on the ball are something you can work on, and it's really inexcusable to be flailing around off the wall at any level. So there's 5 mistakes that every Rocket League player makes pretty much in every game. It's important not to beat yourself up too much, especially on the mistakes that are just inevitable and are going to happen every time you play Rocket League. You should never beat yourself up about not getting to a ball in time, or whiffing a ball on a tough read, or really any situation where you're rushed. You shouldn't feel bad about that. But there are some mistakes you should feel bad about, I guess. Hopefully it'll just motivate you to find the things that you can work on in your game, so you're able to laugh off the things that don't matter and work on the things that do matter.